You know, the culture of hip hop is so interesting. I just interviewed last week a beatboxing, like one of the better beatboxers in New York. He has this beat. He's affiliated with the Beatbox House, which is out in Brooklyn. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
I'm familiar, yeah.
Absolutely. His name is Zanzi FX. He's talented as hell, you know, and we were talking about a subculture of hip hop, and there's so many different ones. You know what I mean? There's so much opportunity. Talk a little bit about where you feel like you fit in hip hop.
I think so. Let's kind of do some hip-hop education, right?
Let's
hip-hop comprises of 5 elements.
I'm here to learn, right?
We're all here to learn and unlearn, right, at the same time.
And unlearn, that's right.
So hip-hop comprises of 5 elements. You have your DJing, which is beat making. You have your rapping. You have your graffiti writing. You have your breakdancing. And then you have knowledge.
And I could argue one more. I could argue fashion.
You could say fashion. Fashion's a 6th element.
Right.
I 100% agree with you. We're aligned in that. But in all of those elements, right, there's different forms of artistic discipline, there's different forms of culture, and there's different forms of community, right? How B-boys show up for themselves is vastly different than the way that rappers show up for themselves. And at one point, it was all homogenistic. It was all together, right?
Right.
Like Pangea, if you want to say it like that. And then by the time we get into the 80s and Sugar Hill Gang and all of that, it starts separating. You start seeing the divide between rap music and the rap music industry and hip-hop as a culture. And we start kind of getting this wedge, even though we all say it's hip hop, right? The radio says home of hip hop and R&B, but they're not interviewing breakdancers.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So like that, so we can't say that this is the home of hip hop if you're not giving shine or audience to the other elements within the culture. Who are the popping B-boys right now? Who are the popping graffiti artists? And you know, like people like that. We just think about the rap music industry, and then that's what we herald as the harbingers of the culture, right? But it's all these other elements. So for me, it's about being an MC first and foremost. I grew up rapping. I've been rapping since I was 10 years old. If there's nothing I know more, it's this, right? Like just from a objective perspective, but as just a technical MC. But then you have knowledge where it's like activism, what KRS-One was doing, what people like Rakim were doing with their songs, what Nas was doing, what J. Cole is presently doing in his songs, like just teaching the people in one way or another, giving them perspective. But I think it's giving people perspective lyrically and then providing context, right? So for me, my approach has always been, I'm going to educate. I know this very well. I feel indebted to this culture for having saved my life in so many ways.
Yeah, same.
That it's important for me to give back and teach the next generation of artists how to be an artist in a communal responsive way. Right? To be responsive to the community, to empower yourself and remix yourself and get this bag, get this money. But now heal yourself, right? Because there's too many rappers out here just doing self-destructive shit. So let's try to find a way to heal ourselves mentally, physically, emotionally, and teach the next generation. And how do we find these opportunities to really break that intergenerational gap that we see in hip hop?
And that's tough to do.
Yeah, you know, because this is one of these kind of milieus or genres of music where you can do it on your own at this point. If you have a laptop, a beat machine, and a microphone, you could do it by yourself. You don't need OG approval. You don't need a cosign or anything. You can literally put something up on Spotify, go viral, and you pop it out of nowhere.
Or SoundCloud even. Yeah.
Even SoundCloud.
That's
a
subsect of the culture.
Exactly.
SoundCloud.
That was a whole era. That was a whole era in the culture. Like SoundCloud has its era, and we have a lot of artists presently who we love now who came from that SoundCloud era.
X came from SoundCloud.
Exactly. He was amazing.
Yeah,
right? He was
one of the most streamed hip hop artists of all time.
Absolutely. So you have this breakdown in the culture where you have these young people who've done it on their own. They didn't need a cosign. There was no tutelage. There was no apprentice program. Where me, when I was 15 years old, I didn't have access to any recording studios, right? Yeah. So I needed my man from the next building to like what I was saying, to bring me to the attention of somebody who had a beat machine, who had a studio, and it was like this. You got to know a guy who knows a guy, and they got to think you're dope in order for you to be in this space. And that was kind of the era that I grew up in. You had to prove yourself in order to get opportunity, where now it's like you get opportunity and you never had to prove yourself. You know what I'm saying? So I think that kind of helps and hurts the culture. It helps in that we have a whole wide array of artists that we can love and appreciate, but it hurts in that they haven't been given the infrastructure to even deal with fame, to deal with money, to deal with the business of this industry, right? You're getting signed to $1 million deals. You don't know where your money's coming from or where it's going. You don't know what your demographics are. You're not holding your data. You know, so like there's these opportunities where we can empower youth with that knowledge, with that fifth element of hip hop, right? Through just artist education, through exposing them to the different elements of hip hop, but also putting them onto the history, right? We're about to go into the 50th year of hip hop in the next 2 years.
Isn't that crazy?
Right? It's amazing to me.
It is.
Right? So they need to be, not need, but I think it's helpful for young people to be grounded in how this culture got started, why it got started, and how that can inform what they do moving forward.
Yeah.